All right, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. Just want to say welcome and thank you for joining us today. We are in week 4 of our part 5 of our Stay Calm and Well webinar series, as we're talking about rejuvenation and renewing after a difficult year and a half that we've been enduring. Before we get started, I want to go over a couple of housekeeping items. If you need closed captioning throughout the webinar, use the Zoom menu. There's a little CC button in the Zoom menu below. You can turn on or turn off the subtitles. Feel free to use those throughout the webinar today. If you would like to ask a question for Josh and Brenda at the end of the session, please use the Q&A feature. And if anyone has a question similar to yours, please use the little thumbs up button to make the questions with the more popular questions populate to the top. We'll do our best to get through all of the questions throughout the session. If you have any technical issues, please use the chat function and let us know. We're here for you and want to help. And so with that, we're going to talk about rejuvenating your passion for extraordinary living today with Josh Winn and Brenda Buffington. And so I will kick it over to Josh to get us started. Thanks for joining, everyone.
Thanks, David. Hi, everybody. My name is Josh Winn. I'm one of the program managers for Buckeye Wellness out of the Office of the Chief Wellness Officer here at The Ohio State University. Before we get started, I introduce my colleague here. I'd like to do a quick little check-in with you all. So if you could open up the chat box or chat function there and simply write down 2 words that best describes you right now. See what we can come up with. At work, tired. At lunch, tired. Busy, happy. I saw one as it was coming through. Frazzled. Good. Satisfied. A father, can relate to that there. Perfect. Well, today we're going to be talking about, for those that are tired at 12:30 in the afternoon. We're going to be looking at that and how do we, add more vitality into our life and, help us to live this extraordinary life that we all have. I am joined by my colleague here, Brenda Buffington, who will be doing her own introduction there.
I sure can. Thanks, Josh. And we're just so excited that you all could join us here for this. We're really stoked about this topic, and we just want to ask you to be open-minded. Kind of think of this as sort of an experiment, right, with your life. After all, that's kind of what we do, isn't it? Day by day, different decisions we make throughout our day. So we want to give you a little background about what this program happens to be about and from where we get this information and our research and our evidence. It is an evidence-based program that we use. I happen to be the director. I get to be the director of Health Athlete here at The Ohio State University. And we have about 11 of us, I think it is, who are facilitators here at the university and a bit beyond. But I want to give you a little idea about what we're going to talk. Here at the university, we have 9 dimensions of wellness. And so we don't want to really confuse that with what you see in front of you here. So we'll call these domains, really. Health Athlete, which is a Johnson & Johnson Foundation program through their Human Performance Institute, uses 4 domains. So let me just give you a quick outline about those, and then Josh is going to take over with our foundational one, our very first one, but physically energized. So we'd like for you to think about that as being the quantity of energy you might have. So instead of always thinking about doing time management, which many of us have become quite, meticulous at, we'd like for you to shift that paradigm to an energy management one. So thinking about how we can continue to have energy throughout the entire time of our day, right? Rather than finishing with less energy and we still have a lot more time in our day. The next one up is emotional. And the emotional domain has to do with our connectedness, but also our quality of life, how we can relate with others, how we can connect with each other, important people, priorities and things, and how we can regulate our emotions. The next one up is the mental domain, and that is mentally focused. So we're looking at how we are able to critically think, how we can learn, how we could speak clearly and be understood. And the furthest one up, the very top of that pyramid, as you see, is spiritually aligned. And we'll talk about it being our spiritual force, basically the force in life. Some people think of it as their North Star. We'll use words like purpose, your why. Other people might think about it as a faith-based kind of spiritual belief system. That's great. Some people can think about it as their value system, their priorities. So without any further ado, I'm going to send it back over to Josh for your first domain.
See if this will work. There we go. All right. So our first, so here at the university, we define physical wellness as our ability to, eat the proper amounts of foods, recover through sleep, exercise, 150 minutes of physical activity a week, and making sure that we get our well checks. But when we look at the physical energy domain, this really focuses on, all of those components that can provide us a great amount of quantity of our energy to either increase it on a daily basis or manage it over time. So we've talked a lot about this through our Stay Calm and Well series, through nutrition and recovery and movement. So I just want to highlight a couple things within this domain. Through the nutrition, we can, learn to fuel our bodies through this idea of eat light, eat often. This is the ability for us to, look over the next 3 to 4 hours and what our demands are, our tasks, whether it's family, whether it's work, things like that, and match the fuel sources to meet those demands. So if I have a meeting coming up and I've got to go, do some teaching or something like that, I know that I got to provide myself enough fuel over the next 3 to 4 hours to meet those demands. If I don't have a lot of demands over the next 3 to 4 hours, I don't have to provide myself, that amount of a lot of nutrition or food during that time. Another great way that we can manage and increase our energy to live this best self is through sleep. And I know a lot of us said that we are tired here. So this might be something that we would like to work on. But, we all know that we should be getting anywhere between 7 to 9 hours of sleep every single night. But it's not just about the quantity of our sleep, but it's more about the quality. We go through these sleep cycles every 90 minutes. And so if you're getting to having these distractions, whether it's pets or whether it's other people or it's children, then we're more likely we're more likely woken up in those earlier stages, which is the preparation stages of sleep. We're not able to get into those stage 3, stage 4s, where we get the physical and the mental benefits of sleep. So, looking at your own sleep habits, what can we do to minimize those distractions to allow for us to get a good quality night of sleep within that 7 to 9 hours? And then the last one, a great strategy to increase our energy and especially manage our energy over the day is through movement. A lot of us, or the ACSM recommendation is 150 minutes of moderate physical activity a week. But more importantly, with those minutes, it's about the quality. A lot of us can go to the gym and just, be there, but, not get a good workout in. So what we can start to focus on within our movement patterns throughout the day is our intensity levels. And if we're worried about, not having enough time to exercise and really want to focus on our energy, what we can do is, fluctuate our intensity levels throughout that duration. Brenda, do you mind clicking over it? There we go. So, I love this slide. I think the proof's in the pudding here. So let's look at, someone who jogs. If you're a jogger yourself, you like to go on, 30-minute jogs. This is someone who goes on a jogs for about, 12-minute mile here. Within a 30-minute jog, you're going to burn about 380 calories. All right. Decent amount, especially right after lunch or things like that. If you start to fluctuate your intensity zones between a high intensity zone and low intensity zone, a 1-to-1 ratio, look what happens to the time here. You burn the same exact amount of calories within 28 minutes. And then at the end, look what happens when we fluctuate that even more, where we do like a 2-to-1 ratio, sprinting, which is a higher intensity, versus, with a 30-second follow-up of rest or, at a slower pace walk. That 380-minute calories that were burned in that original jogging now only takes 21 minutes. So look what happens when we start to cut down the time and focus on the intensity, now we give ourselves back that 9 minutes to focus on other areas in our life for us to be at our best self. So going back to, no, maybe not. There we go. Maybe look at 1 or 2 or 3 of these strategies over the next couple of weeks for us to, for you to start to work on, for you to be at your best self. So I'm going to turn it back over to Brenda to focus on the emotional.
Great. Thanks, Josh. So the next one up is emotional. And again, the connectedness or the quality of our life. We'd like to ask you now to give us another chat here. Let's take a moment to think about the things or the people we are most grateful for, we're most thankful for. So I'd like to invite you to put in just a couple of things, maybe 3, but 1, 2, or 3 of people or things that you're most grateful at this very moment. There we go. Supportive friends, family, pets, health. There it is. My job. Great. Lots of friends, lots of family, colleagues. Gosh, this is great. This is great. We'd like to challenge you to do this as often as possible. I mean, there's some great research out of Duke University, for one, that says that if we would do this for 21 days, that it really has some great impact on our optimism, even on our biometrics. It can decrease our stress levels, our cortisol levels. Oh, 1, 2, 3, God, family, health, love it. Thank you. Thank you. Good. So as we get into this thought, and even just typing these out, I don't know if you've noticed your emotions maybe just rose. I mean, you're maybe in a better mood. I know I am as I'm reading yours. Love to see that from different people. Going to continue with this discussion because it takes us right into the next dimension here in a moment. But much of the content that we're going to talk about as far as emotions and even into mental dimension have to do with this idea of self-compassion. And so I want to relate to you a couple other experts that are in the field. Much of the content that I'll talk about just briefly here come from Doctors Brene Brown and Kristen Neff. Don't know if you've heard of either of them or both, maybe, but I would highly recommend reading and listening to anything by them. Great researchers on specifically this topic, but they're widely considered to be the most influential shame, self-criticism, and self-compassion researchers, right? We're really talking about shame here. And I know some of us understand that better than some others, but shame really is just it's a debilitating inner experience that kind of elicits itself as negative self-talk, really. And it can totally change our ability to make changes in ourselves. And it can decrease our confidence level so much so that we can be and not change. So, but despite this inevitability of change, hope can be found in the guise of self-resilience or shame resilience. Basically, that is, according to Brene, this shame resilience theory that she has, she says that by practicing this, it can take the form of reaching out to others by being empathetic, by being non-judgmental. And we'd like to take this one step further and call it basically the golden rule in reverse, right? Do unto yourself as you would do unto others. Think about that. You see, shame requires 3 things to grow. It requires secrecy, silence, and judgment. So the elements of self-compassion counteract those. And they are the ones you see on the screen right here. Josh is going to talk about this a bit more, about the idea of self-kindness over self-judgment. In other words, having a good self-ally or inner ally, as opposed to an inner critic. The next one is common humanity versus isolation. So realizing that other people have the same things happen to them, that you are one of many that this happens to. And finally, mindfulness, which he's going to talk about also, over identification, maybe reframing some of the ways that we think and talk to ourselves about. Finally, one more. I want you to see this, but you want to spend time later on this. We're going to challenge you to make one small change by the end of this presentation, to think about one small, very small change. This might be one of those. To cultivate more self-compassion, we're giving you quite a few links here, and this is all open access from Dr. Kristen Neff, but they're fantastic and they're easily, clicked upon and you can just listen along. But there are some self-compassion guided practices for you. I'm going to turn it back over to Josh.
Look at the next slide here. So Brenda talked about this whole idea of the mental energy, which, kind of is our focus. We've created a lot of energy through, moving the body and expanding the body. Yep. We've looked at our emotions, got us excited. Now we need to, kind of focus on our best self. And it starts with, how do we talk to ourselves, which Brenda kind of alluded to earlier. We, by nature, we're great storytellers. We've told stories to pass information down from generation to generation. And just like we're great storytellers to others, we're also great storytellers to ourselves. Depending on who we listen to helps to promote what type of behavior we like to, engage in. And so if that story that we're telling ourselves over and over again has a negative tone and prevents us from taking the next step, Susan, I just saw in the chat box, we're going to provide some supplemental pages at the end as a document for you to get some more information on those links. And I know someone just said something about the nutrition. So we'll provide that later on. But, within the critical inner voice, if we're listening to ourselves, which prevents us to engage in those healthy behaviors, it's going to lead to, disengagement and our livelihood with our friends. It's going to support those negative behaviors that we talked about. I'm not good enough to go on a run. I don't know how to go to the gym and things like that. And can impact our confidence and our overall self-esteem. So ideally, what we'd like to do is have that supportive internal voice that promotes those healthy behaviors. And as you can see here, is almost the exact opposite. Can result in improving our passions in life. It's more aligned with what we say is true and within our values. And it can energize us. If I say to myself, just trust the process, I'm more willing to stick with it over time. And so, as we move forward, asking yourself, what type of voice do you listen to? Are you more listening to that internal critical voice, or are you listening to that more supportive voice? So, ways that we can, ways that we can manage our, critical voice is simply becoming self-aware. Dr. Bern Melnick, our Chief Wellness Officer, has talked about cognitive behavioral therapy. And this is a great way to manage that critical inner voice is, becoming self-aware of the negative thoughts and switching them with more positive thoughts. Ways that we can support our internal voice once it is more positive is looking at the glass half full, trying to find that positivity in life. Practicing mindfulness. I know we've heard a lot about mindfulness through the Stay Calm and Well series and all throughout health promotion efforts. But it's the ability to really focus on our present moment, not be judgmental about what comes into our life. It's just, really focusing on the task at hand. And that can prevent that critical voice from, creeping back in. Practicing positive self-talk is a great strategy, like we talked about earlier, that, can keep us motivated and encouraged to live out these healthy behaviors. So, like I said, who are you listening to on a daily basis? So what I'd like for us to do here, if you're able to, I know some of us might be listening to this, either at their desk or things like that, but I'd like for you to think about maybe 2 or 3 statements that is negative in nature. I'm not good enough. I just don't have the skills. Something along that lines that, promotes that critical inner voice that's coming into our thoughts. And looking at each of those statements, I'd like for you to switch that from a negative to a positive statement. So if you're looking at your character traits, I'm not good enough, I'm a terrible parent. How can we switch that to something that's more positive? What we'd like for you to do is open up that chat box again. And once you have that positive statement, we've got a couple of examples here. We'd like for you to jot those down.
We love learning from all of you. I think that's part of the reason why Josh and I enjoy this program, as well as doing a lot of these sort of presentations, is yes, there we go. We get to learn from you as much as you learn from us. Maybe we learn more. These are great. So share your ideas with us, please. Great.
That I'm a supportive mom.
I'm a good listener. Yes.
It will get easier. Yes.
Nice. Nice. There we go.
And
We've had some other folks tell us that just adding the word yet at the end of something, I'm not good at that yet, meaning there is time, there is a chance that I can get better. I know I can get better. I know one that I've shared before. It's really that very top one we're giving you there. My negative statement happened to have been, I have to. I was waking up saying, I have to do this and I have to do that, getting bogged down and overwhelmed, like some of the words. I then finally said, no, I get to. I mean, even as much as I get to wash dishes, I get to do certain tasks that if you think about it, I feel grateful that I have dishes, that I have food that I can dirty my dishes, that I have soap that I can clean my dirty dishes with. So it became a grateful thing.
And this takes time. We're here. The whole purpose of this presentation is looking at ways for us to support this extraordinary living. And so just by simply switching those thoughts, those negative thoughts, to something that's more positive, it's going to keep us on to that narrow path, straight and narrow path to, living our best life. So with that, speaking about the narrow path.
Yes.
Throw it over back to Brenda.
Good segue there, Josh. Nice. I love that one too, Stacy. Sometimes good is good enough. Absolutely. Oh, I love these. These are great. I want to capture all of these, David. Let's move on to the very top of the pyramid. And much of what I'm going to talk about right now really is work that we would suggest you do over the next several days. It is work worth doing. And it is at the very top for a reason. And we'll show a quick slide here in a moment. But as you're looking at these words, there are a lot of words up there. We'd like to challenge you. You don't need to chat this, but this is between you and your brain, your thinking. Which ones of them would be non-negotiables? In other words, I am so sure of my faith. Maybe the next category, I really am, it's a non-negotiable. I put the time and energy into my health. Maybe it's love as one of the most important ones to the far right? So go ahead and choose just a couple. This is going to start to prime your brain toward this very important purpose statement that we're going to suggest that you start to work on, write down, perhaps at least start to mull over. And I'll give you some reasons here in a moment. But there they are. And again, you'll have all of these slides, so you can revisit this absolutely. So let's go on to just one of my favorite quotes. It kind of keeps me going from day to day at times. The two most important days in your life are the day you are born and the day you find out why. And that is what we're talking about today, your why. So we'd like to introduce these questions. As you can see, they're from Health Athlete. And we spend quite a bit of time on this topic in Health Athlete, but we're going to suggest that you think about these now and throughout the next several days. Like I said, researchers speculated that a sense of purpose may help a person better manage stress and encourage a more active lifestyle. So we're seeing that there is a correlation. We also see, research tells us that knowing your purpose and living it decreases cognitive decline by as much as 40 to 50%. It can reduce our macroscopic stroke by 40%. It can improve sleep and reduce sleep apnea. And then one of my favorites is it can add 7 years to your life. Research has found that us finding our purpose, stating it, and living to our purpose as best we can actually live 7 years longer, much for those reasons that I've just mentioned. So researchers have also found that the association to be really powerful, that having a life purpose appeared to be more important, listen to this, more important for decreasing risk of death than drinking, smoking, or exercising regularly. So it's convincing information, we think. But again, we want you to take some time to really go over these questions and take some time for answering them. The big reason why we're doing this is this slide right here. Much of the meaning to this whole presentation really comes from here. So these 4 domains or dimensions, right? We talked to you from like the one on the left side as we develop. Josh talked about physical. We're born, we need food, we need, rest, we need movement. And then we begin to get older and more mature, and we are able to notice emotions and maybe be able to regulate them, and maybe not, but we start to get better at that. Then we get older and we go into school and we start to learn and are able to speak clearly to one another and understand and be understood. And then finally, we go to the top and we find out why we are here. We figure out, as you are now, maybe some of you have done this long ago and you're doing great. Some of us, this might be new, but we challenge you to think about your purpose. So some of those answers to those questions will help you to formulate your purpose. So that brings us to the right side of this slide, becoming extraordinary. So we become extraordinary when we start from the top and live down. In other words, we let our purpose be aligned with all the other questions and decisions we have to make, from what we might read, study, look at, watch, down to the emotion, the people we might want to be connected with, those folks we want to spend time with, some folks we may need to spend less time with, right? And then finally, it can help us make all the decisions in what we eat and drink, how we recover, and how we move our bodies. So this is a lot, we know, but we're giving you some chance here to make that one challenge, that one small change. So I'm going to turn it back over to Josh with our last slide.
So kind of working on that. Brenda, you mind clicking through? There we go. Okay. So what we're going to ask you to do, and this is going to be in that supplemental package that will be on the U site, is kind of make a commitment to, one of the strategies that we talked about today. And I know that we kind of glossed over a lot, especially within the physical dimension, but, we did talk about, the, evaluating our emotions, evaluating our focus and things like that. But what we'd like for you to do is thinking about one of those strategies, making one commitment, using a SMART goal, so starting with that I will statement, and then writing out what you're going to do over the next week or so. I'd like for you to identify an accountability partner. There's a great amount of research on, having someone to be there, as to keep you hold accountable and help you along the process. And then like for you to, sign that off from there. So this will be in that supplemental package for you to fill out after you have identified your purpose statement.
Awesome. Yes. And we just want to invite you to come to one of our health athlete programs. We are starting to get back together. This is our whole crew. This is the team, and really proud of this group. I really enjoy working with each and every one of them. Very honored. Here are some dates that are coming up. We do have a new 7-week series that's virtual, obviously, in Zoom. Starting in January, we'll go through, as you can see, the dates Wednesdays and Fridays, January 19th through the March 2nd, or January 21st through March 1st. We do have a 1-day workshop coming up. That'll be Friday, November 12th. And then we do have a 2-day. If you are an executive leader, we invite you to come to our 2-day, and that is also in person, December 9th and 10th. You will simply go to that website you see up there, healthathlete.osu.edu, and you can register and find out more information that way. There are some references. Again, these are all included. Josh, I don't know if we want to talk about skills building or we move on. Nope.
We move on. Yeah.
Great. Great. We just want to thank all of you for being here on behalf of the Office of the Chief Wellness Officer and Buckeye Wellness as well. You will see more, and I think David has more to say about this and about our next program next week.
I do, but we've got a couple of questions here first. So if anyone has any questions for Josh and Brenda, we'll take another few minutes and answer those. So the first question that I have is, just someone commented on nutrition. Could you guys expand on just a little bit more on nutrition, eating every 3 to 4 hours, and just kind of talking through that a little bit further?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into the whole nutrition portion of that. Thanks for providing that. Yeah. So the idea of when we look at some of our healthy eating strategies, a lot of us, just eat those big 3 meals: breakfast at 7 o'clock, lunch at 1 or noon, and then won't eat till dinner till like 7 or 8. So you're going sometimes between meals in between, 5 to 6, 7 hours without, eating. And so, when we focus on the next 3 to 4 hours with our nutrition and providing ourselves fuel, we can have a more tailored approach. If you've got a couple back-to-back meetings, maybe adding in a snack or two that keep you fuller for longer, and then helps you kind of bridge the gap into that next big meal. So that's what that was kind of about. But happy to kind of go into and provide a little bit more information about that eat light, eat often method. Brenda, anything else?
It's kind of, yeah, Josh, look, and you see in front of you. So next week, she'd be an awesome person. She is an RDN, an LD. So she is a licensed dietitian and nutritionist. She will answer lots more, but she is right there aligned with what we've been talking about as well. Thanks, Josh. That's awesome. I have really nothing else to add to that. He's great. I wanted to show you our contact information, but also, David, if there are other questions.
Yep, couple more. One person asks and says, "Yet can be powerful, but what would you say if someone is using yet for the same statements and hasn't started to make that a reality, and perhaps there is discouragement by waiting?"
Sure. And, I think that would get back to something we just put in one of our slides there as far as an accountability partner. And we have some fabulous ones here. The health plan has health coaches. They have helped me. Josh and I are both National Board Certified Health and Wellness Coaches. And so we've learned from our education, as well as myself going to a health coach, it might be time then for you to get some help. And in that way, like I said, the health coaches can be fabulous with that. They can help you, set some time frames, set a SMART goal, be more specific maybe, and then be a little more regimented and have a due date, a deadline that you can, at least start to peck away at that small change. Josh, whether you have something to add?
Oh, I think, yeah, and it's also dependent on how you use that yet. If you're in progression, using that yet is a great strategy to keep you moving forward. But kind of to the other one, David, I think you just kind of got the other one. If you're hesitant and still using that yet, you're contemplating kind of what the next step. It's time to talk to someone about that. Whether it's a close friend or it's a health coach, we've got, like Brenda said, we've got great resources here at the university to help.
Sure do.
Okay, we've got one more question. One person states that they go to CrossFit at 5 a.m. so they can get in their workout before starting work. This can sometimes mean I'm tired in the afternoon despite getting to bed as early as I can. Is this bad?
Yeah, I would first challenge the bad comment at the end. It's very, first off, it's really relative to the individual.
Mm-hmm.
I know for me, I have 3 lovely children and a great wife and 2 hellion dogs. CrossFit in the morning, yeah, that's bad for me. But so Jody, I first look at we talked about sleep. Are you getting enough sleep at the night? Are you getting that 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep? And then what are you doing throughout the day to sustain your energy levels? Maybe it is you're not providing yourself the right amount of fuel, things like that. So there's a little bit to that, but I wouldn't say that it's bad necessarily.
Right. I would agree with you. I think it's maybe quite normal. My other thing that I would check, because we'll feel that way as well. I do a morning workout, but I'll check in on when the last time I had some calories, the last time I put something of nourishment into my body, into my tank, right, to keep me going. The other thought would be, maybe it's time to think of other ways of recovery methods too. Are you able to sit down and actually recover your physical body by doing something else? But I would go back to nutrition, probably. Yes, the most. Great question.
Yeah, but Jody, kudos to you getting up at 5 a.m. I mean, that's a big commitment. So
yeah, gets done. First thing in the morning gets done usually.
One final thought, just someone was wondering if we had a resource that we could provide for finding your passion at work, or if you guys have a comment on that too. And as I mentioned in the chat, everyone, I will post the resources that Josh mentioned with the recording when we get that up.
I think of Health Athlete kind of, it's a great strategy not to self-promote there, but I really do,
Sure.
The passion, once we're able to identify the passions in our life, that can relate to any other area. You can take that same strategy and apply that to work.
Yeah, I would agree. And, Josh, we're biased, but it is a fantastic program, Health Athlete. And it's, like I said, it's based on a Johnson & Johnson Foundation program that's well-researched, evidence-based. And we have seen some great changes in people ourselves, but in other people too, with regards to those thoughts. That program, some of the special stuff that it does is it gives you time to do some self-auditing, right? Some self-reflection that sometimes we don't give ourselves the time to do. So if you were to come and be a part of that program sometime, I think it could nudge you toward finding your passion. Maybe. Yeah.
Not self-promote us. There's also great resources through the Leadership Institute. And then also through HR. They have a lot of great skills building programs that can help lead to that passion within your workforce. So definitely check those out as well.
Nice. Yes.
Great. That's all the questions and all the time we've got for today. We really appreciate you joining us, and want to give a special shout out to Brenda and Josh for a great presentation. As Brenda mentioned, we will be exploring our diet next week with Gina Forrester. So we look forward to seeing you then, and we will do our best to get the recording up by the end of this week or early next. So thank you, everyone.